The shield wall is sacred. Every Viking warrior knows this from the moment he first lifts a blade. You stand shoulder to shoulder with your brothers. Your shield overlaps the man beside you. His shield protects you. Your shield protects him. You hold the line no matter what comes. No matter how many enemies charge, no matter how terrifying the onslaught. You hold. Because the moment one man breaks, the moment one gap appears, the entire wall collapses. And when a shield wall collapses, warriors die. I held my position. I swear on every god we honor, I held my position. But someone pushed me, hard, deliberately, and 20 Vikings died because of it. Now they've chained me for treason, for abandoning my post, for breaking the sacred wall. And unless I can prove what really happened in those chaotic seconds of battle, I'll hang as a coward who let his brothers die. If you believe the truth matters, even when everyone saw something different, hit that subscribe button now. This story gets brutal before justice arrives. My name is Ragnar. I've stood in the shield wall for 12 years, fought in 30 battles from Scotland to the Baltic. I've held the line against Saxon berserkers, Frankish cavalry, and Scottish Highlanders who fought like demons. I know how to lock shields, how to brace my feet, how to absorb impact without breaking formation. It's muscle memory, instinct. You don't think, you just do. Yesterday's battle was supposed to be simple, a raid on a Saxon settlement. Their militia had fortified a hilltop position, stone walls on 3 sides, open slope on the 4th, standard defensive setup. Our Jarl, Eric the Bold, ordered a frontal assault. Send the shield wall up that slope, break their line, take the hill. I stood in the front rank, 5th position from the left, the most dangerous spot in any shield wall. Front rank takes the initial impact. 5th position is where the enemy usually concentrates their strongest push. It's a position of honor, of trust. You don't put weak warriors there. You put men who won't break, men who've proven themselves. Beside me, in the 4th position, stood Knut. We'd trained together for years, fought in a dozen battles, saved each other's lives more times than I could count. I trusted him with my life, trusted him to hold his shield steady, to keep his position locked, to be the unmovable wall beside me. I didn't know he wanted my position. Didn't know he'd been asking Jarl Eric for months to move me and give him the 5th spot. Didn't know that jealousy had poisoned our brotherhood into something deadly. The battle started at dawn. We formed up at the base of the hill, 200 Vikings in tight formation, 4 ranks deep, 50 men across, shields locked, spears ready. The Saxons waited at the top, maybe 80 militia, farmers with weapons, not professional soldiers. But they had the high ground, and desperation. "Forward!" Eric's command rang out. "Shield wall advance! Hold the line!" We moved as one unit, slow, steady, up the muddy slope. Our shields overlapped perfectly, a moving fortress of wood and iron. The Saxons shouted challenges, threw rocks, tried to break our discipline. We ignored them, just kept climbing. At 50 yards, they released arrows. The shafts whistled overhead. Most bounced off shields. A few found gaps. I heard men grunt behind me as arrows struck, but the wall didn't break. We kept moving. At 20 yards, they charged. 80 Saxons screaming down the hill. Axes, swords, desperation in their eyes. They hit our shield wall like a wave against a cliff. The impact was massive. The sound of wood on wood, metal on metal, men screaming. The front rank absorbed the shock. My shield took 3 simultaneous hits. The force drove me back a step, but I braced, pushed forward, maintained position. Beside me, Canute did the same. Behind us, the second rank pressed forward, added their weight, stabilized the wall. We held. The initial Saxon charge broke against our shields like water. They fell back, regrouped, charged again. Again we held. This was shield wall fighting, brutal, grinding. Whoever broke first would die. Then I felt it. A hand on my back, not steadying me, pushing me, hard, sideways. My foot slipped in the mud. My shield angle shifted, just for a second, just enough. A Saxon axe came through the gap, caught the warrior behind me in the throat. He went down screaming. His falling body pulled at my shield arm, threw off my balance. I stumbled forward, out of position, out of the line. The gap widened. Saxons poured through. The shield wall, that sacred, unbreakable formation, collapsed in a cascade of falling warriors. Men who'd stood firm suddenly had enemies behind them, in front of them, everywhere. Comment below if you've ever been blamed for something someone else caused. Let me know you're still with me. The slaughter lasted maybe 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. I fought desperately, trying to reform the line, trying to protect the men around me. But chaos had won. Warriors I'd known for years went down. Thorstein took an axe to the spine. Bjorn was surrounded and hacked apart. Young Sven, barely 20 winters, died with a sword through his chest while screaming for his mother. 20 warriors, 20 brothers, dead because the shield wall broke. Dead because someone created a gap that shouldn't have existed. Our second and third ranks finally pushed forward, reformed a new line, pushed the Saxons back up the hill. We won eventually, took the settlement, claimed the victory, but it was hollow. We'd lost 20 men taking a hill that should have cost us 5 at most. I stumbled away from the killing ground. My armor was covered in blood, most of it not mine. I looked for Canute, found him standing with a group of warriors. His face was grim, shocked, like everyone else's. Then Jarl Erik approached. His face wasn't shocked. It was furious. "Ragnar," he said. His voice was low. "Dangerous. What happened?" "The wall broke. You broke it," Erik interrupted. "I saw you. You were 5th position. You stumbled forward, created the gap. 20 men are dead because you couldn't hold your position." "I was pushed. Someone pushed me." "No one pushes in a shield wall, Ragnar. There's no room, no space. You stumbled, you broke formation, and you got 20 warriors killed." "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen? Because I saw you out of position. I saw the gap open where you stood. I saw Saxons pour through. And I saw 20 of my warriors die because of it." I looked around desperately, looking for support, for someone who'd seen, but everyone was staring at me with horror and accusation. In a shield wall, you can only see the men directly beside you, behind you. No one had seen Canute push me. No one had seen his hand on my back. They'd only seen me stumble, seen the gap, seen the death. "I held my position," I said. My voice sounded weak even to myself. "I was pushed. Someone pushed me." "Coward's excuse," someone muttered in the crowd. Erik's hand went to his sword. "You're under arrest, Ragnar, for breaking the shield wall, for abandoning your post, for getting 20 warriors killed through incompetence or cowardice. You'll be judged by the Thing Assembly, and if you're found guilty, you'll hang." Guards grabbed my arms. They stripped my weapons, my armor, chained my wrists. I looked at Canute one last time. His face showed perfect grief, perfect shock. But his eyes held something else, something that looked like satisfaction. He'd wanted my position. Now he had it. And all it cost was 20 lives and 1 falsely accused warrior. The holding cell was underground, dark. kind of darkness that presses against your eyes until you're not sure if they're open or closed. I sat on cold stone, wrists chained to an iron ring in the wall. Above me, I could hear the settlement. Footsteps, voices, life continuing while I waited to die. They were burning the bodies. I could smell it. That distinctive scent of burning flesh that every warrior knows. 20 pyres, 20 families mourning, and every single one of them blamed me. I replayed those seconds over and over. The hand on my back, the push, the sideways force that threw off my balance. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't the chaos of battle. It was deliberate, calculated. Someone had waited for the perfect moment, the moment of maximum impact, the moment when the Saxons were charging and everyone's attention was focused forward. Canute. It had to be Canute. But why? We were brothers, shield brothers. We'd saved each other's lives. What could drive him to murder 20 men just to, what? Get my position? That seemed insane. 5th position in the shield wall was honorable, yes, but was it worth mass murder? Unless it wasn't just about position. Unless there was something else I didn't know about. Something I'd missed. Footsteps approached. Heavy, deliberate. The cell door opened. Torchlight flooded in, blinding after hours of darkness. I blinked, trying to focus. 2 figures entered. One was a guard. The other was Astrid, the settlement's healer. She carried a leather bag. "Your wounds," she said simply. "They sent me to check you before the trial tomorrow." I hadn't realized I was wounded. The adrenaline of battle had masked it. But now, as she lifted my tunic, I saw the cuts, the bruises, a deep gash across my ribs where a Saxon blade had gotten through. Astrid worked in silence, cleaning wounds, applying poultices. Her hands were gentle but efficient. The guard stood by the door, watching but not interfering. "They say you broke the wall," Astrid said quietly. "Say you stumbled, got 20 men killed." I was pushed. "So you claim, but no one saw it. In battle, no one sees anything except what's directly in front of them." She wrapped a bandage around my ribs. "I treated Canute too, after the battle. He had interesting wounds." I looked up sharply. "What kind of wounds?" "Bruises on his palms, the kind you get from pushing someone very hard. The skin on his right hand was scraped, like it had slid across rough leather or cloth." She met my eyes. "Like he'd pushed someone's back while they were wearing armor." My heart hammered. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been a healer for 30 years. I've seen every kind of wound, battle wounds, training wounds, murder wounds, and I know the difference between someone hurt defending themselves and someone hurt attacking." She lowered her voice even more. "Canute's wounds weren't defensive. They were offensive. He pushed something, or someone, hard." Would you? Trust a healer's forensic evidence over eyewitness accounts? Tell me in the comments. Will you testify? At the trial? Astrid's face hardened. "And say what? That I noticed some bruises? That's not proof. That's speculation. Canute could claim he got those wounds any number of ways in battle, pushing against shields, shoving Saxons, wrestling with enemies. Without someone who actually saw him push you, it's just my word against his. And healers don't overrule warriors in matters of combat." "So I'm condemned because no one saw it." "You're condemned because Jarl Erik saw you out of position, saw the gap, saw the deaths. In his mind, you're guilty. The trial tomorrow is just a formality." She finished bandaging, stood up. "But there's something you should know. Canute has been spending a lot of time with Erik lately, more than usual. They meet privately, talk in corners. I've seen them." "What are they planning?" "I don't know, but Canute wants something from Erik, and Erik seems willing to give it.
Your arrest might be convenient for both of them.
What could I have that Eric wants to take?
Your reputation, your honor, your example.
Astrid packed her supplies.
You're popular, Ragnar. The younger warriors respect you, look up to you. You're the kind of man who could challenge Eric if you wanted to, if you had ambitions. Maybe Eric sees you as a threat, and maybe Canute offered him a solution, a way to remove you that looks like justice instead of politics.
The pieces were falling into place. A conspiracy. Not just Canute acting alone, but Canute working with Eric, using the battle as cover to eliminate a potential rival. If that's true, I'm dead. No trial will save me if the Jarl wants me gone.
Not necessarily.
Astrid moved toward the door. The guard was looking away, distracted. She pulled something from her bag, a small vial, slipped it into my hand.
Poppy milk. Enough to dull pain, or enough to put someone to sleep for hours if added to their drink. Use it wisely.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that sometimes justice requires evidence that needs to be discovered, and sometimes discovery requires people to be unavailable during crucial moments.
She looked me in the eye.
Canute drinks heavily after battles. Everyone knows this. He'll be drunk tonight, very drunk. And if someone were to search his quarters while he was unconscious...
You're asking me to escape, to break into his home, to find evidence.
I'm not asking anything. I'm a healer who treated your wounds and accidentally dropped a vial. What you do with it is your choice.
She knocked on the door. The guard turned back.
He's stable, should survive until trial, though I recommend keeping him warm. The cold down here could worsen his injuries.
The door closed. The lock clicked. I was alone again, with the vial in my palm. Astrid had given me a choice. Stay in this cell and face a predetermined verdict, or take a risk, escape, find the evidence that would prove Canute's guilt. It wasn't really a choice at all. The guard changed at midnight. The new one was young, maybe 18 winters. He brought me water and stale bread, set the tray down just inside the cell bars. Close, too close.
"Thank you," I said.
My voice was hoarse from thirst.
"It's nothing," the young guard muttered.
He turned to leave.
"Wait, what's your name?"
He hesitated.
"Sten, why?" "Because tomorrow I might be dead, and I'd like to know the name of the last person who showed me kindness."
I drank the water slowly.
"Did you fight yesterday, in the battle?" "No, I'm not experienced enough yet. I guard, I train, but I haven't earned my place in the shield wall." "That's good. The shield wall."
I trailed off, let the silence stretch.
20 men died yesterday, Sten. Good warriors. Because I supposedly broke formation. Do you believe that? That I'd abandon my brothers?
Sten shifted uncomfortably.
"I don't know what to believe. Jarl Erik says you stumbled, created the gap, but others say you've never broken in 12 years, that you're solid as stone." "I was pushed. Someone behind me, but no one saw it. No one believes it." "I'm sorry, that must be..."
Sten stopped, looked away.
"I should go." "Of course. Thank you for the water."
He left. I waited, counted to 100. Then I took the vial Astrid had given me, poured half of it into the water cup, stirred it with my finger. The poppy milk dissolved completely, colorless, tasteless. I called out,
"Guard! Sten! I need help. I think my wounds are bleeding again."
Footsteps. The door opened. Sten entered with his torch.
"What's wrong?" "My ribs. The bandage. I think it's soaked through." I gestured at my side. "Can you check? I can't see in this darkness."
Sten knelt beside me, lifted my tunic, examined the bandage.
"It looks fine. No fresh blood." "Are you sure?" It hurts. A lot. The healer said it would hurt. That's normal. He stood up, saw the water cup sitting by the tray. You didn't finish your water. It's stale. Tastes like rust. Better than nothing. He picked up the cup, drank the remaining water in 2 gulps. See? Not that bad. I said nothing, just watched, waited. Sten stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Then his eyes went unfocused. He swayed, reached out to steady himself against the wall. I feel, he mumbled, strange. His legs buckled. He collapsed onto the stone floor, not unconscious yet, but close. I grabbed his keys before he could drop them, unlocked my chains. The iron fell away from my wrists with a clatter that sounded impossibly loud. Sorry, Sten, I whispered. You'll wake up in a few hours with a headache, but you'll be alive, which is more than I'll be if I don't find proof. Would you drug an innocent guard to find evidence? Comment your answer. I dragged him into the corner, positioned him like he was sleeping on duty, took his cloak, his cap. In the darkness, from a distance, I might pass for a guard. Might. The settlement was quiet. Most people were asleep.
Few torches burned along the main paths. I stayed in shadows, moved between buildings, heading toward the warrior's quarters where Canute had his room. I saw him before I reached his door, stumbling down the path, drunk, exactly as Astrid had predicted. He was singing some crude song about Saxon women. His voice was loud, slurred. He barely noticed when I stepped into his path. You, he mumbled, squinting at me. Guard, what are you doing? Patrol, I said, kept my voice low, my face in shadow. Good, good. Keep watch. Lots of traitors around. He laughed at his own joke, stumbled past me toward his door, fumbled with his keys, dropped them, cursed, finally got the door open, fell inside. The door swung shut behind him. I waited. 5 minutes, 10, until I heard snoring, deep, heavy, the snoring of a man who'd drunk himself into oblivion. I pushed the door open carefully. The hinges creaked, but Canute didn't stir. His room was small. A sleeping platform, a chest, a weapons rack, nothing elaborate. I searched systematically, checked every drawer, every corner. Nothing. Just clothes and normal possessions. I was about to give up when I noticed the sleeping platform. It sat on wooden supports. There was a gap underneath. I knelt down, reached into the darkness. My hand touched something. Leather. I pulled it out. A small journal. The kind warriors kept to record battles, deeds, important moments. I opened it to the most recent entry. The writing was hasty, excited. Eric agreed. Tomorrow's battle. 5th position will be mine. Ragnar out of the way. Finally get what I deserve. Just need to make it look like accident. Push during chaos. No one will see. Wall will break. Eric gets his rival removed. I get honor and position. Perfect. My hands shook as I read. This was it. Written proof of premeditated murder, of conspiracy with the Jarl, of planning to kill 20 warriors just to eliminate me. I closed the journal, started to leave. Then I saw something else. On the weapons rack, Canute's shield, the one he'd used in battle. I examined it closely, the backside, where you grip it. There were marks, fresh scratches, and something else. Dried blood. But not on the front where it would face enemies. On the back, near the grip. Like he'd been holding something sharp against the shield while pushing, using it to stabilize himself while he shoved me with maximum force. I pulled out my knife.
carefully scraped samples of the blood. It was old, dried, but recognizable. Not Canute's blood, not from any wound he'd received. This was blood from someone he'd grabbed, someone he'd pushed. My blood. From wounds on my back where his hand had pressed, where his grip had torn my tunic and broken skin. Physical evidence that his hand had been on me during the battle. I wrapped the samples in cloth, took the journal, left everything else exactly as I'd found it. As I reached the door, Canute stirred, mumbled something, rolled over, started snoring.
Again, I slipped back into the night. Now I had evidence, written confession, physical proof, enough to challenge Eric, enough to demand a real investigation. But I was still an escaped prisoner, still accused of killing 20 warriors, and the sun was rising. The trial would begin within hours. I needed to reach the Thing assembly before they condemned me in absentia, needed to present this evidence before Eric could silence me permanently. The race was on. The Thing assembly gathered at dawn. 300 warriors formed the judgment circle. I watched from the tree line. Guards were searching for me, the escaped prisoner. But they expected me to run, to flee the settlement, not to walk straight into my own trial. Jarl Eric stood on the raised platform. Beside him stood Canute, looking confident, rested, like a man who'd gotten everything he wanted. The crowd murmured as Eric raised his hand for silence. Ragnar, son of Thorvald, stands accused of breaking the shield wall, of abandoning his position, of causing 20 warriors' deaths through cowardice or incompetence. He has escaped custody, which proves his guilt. A man with nothing to hide doesn't run. The assembly roared agreement. I waited. Let them have their moment. Let Eric think he'd won. However, Eric continued, justice demands we hear all evidence, even for a coward who won't face judgment. Does anyone speak for the accused? Silence. No one stepped forward. Why would they? I'd broken the sacred wall. Or so they believed. In Viking culture, that was unforgivable. I stepped out of the trees, walked into the circle. The crowd gasped. Warriors reached for weapons. Guards started forward. Eric's face went white. I'll speak for myself, I said. My voice carried across the assembly. And I have evidence that will change everything you think you know about yesterday's battle. You escaped, Eric shouted. You prove your guilt by running. I didn't run. I investigated. Because you weren't going to. I pulled out Canute's journal, held it high. This is Canute's personal record, written in his own hand, the night before battle. Let me read it to you. I read the entry aloud, every damning word. The conspiracy with Eric, the plan to push me, the deliberate murder of 20 warriors to eliminate a rival. The assembly erupted in shouts, accusations, chaos. That's a forgery, Canute screamed. His face was red, panicked. He broke into my home, planted false evidence. Then explain the scratches on your palms, I said. The healer noticed them, the kind you get from pushing someone very hard. Explain the blood on the back of your shield. Not the front where you face enemies, the back, my blood, from when you pushed me. Would you believe written evidence or claim it's forged? Tell me what proof you'd need. Eric stepped forward, his hand on his sword. This is conspiracy. You fabricated this journal. You're desperate, trying anything to avoid judgment. Then let's ask the one person who was right beside me, I said. The man who stood in 6th position, behind me and Canute. Halvar. Where is Halvar? A warrior pushed through the crowd, older, gray in his beard. Halvar the Steady, they called him. 15 years in the shield wall, never broken, never faltered. I'm here, Halvar said. But I can't help you, Ragnar. I didn't see what happened. The man behind me fell. I was focused on keeping the line. "The man behind you fell," I repeated. "What was his name?" "Thorstein, good warrior, took an axe to the throat when the wall broke." "And where is Thorstein now?" "Dying, in the healer's tent. The wound was mortal, but slow. He's lasted through the night, but won't see another dawn." I turned to Eric. "I request the assembly hear Thorstein's testimony. A dying man's words are sacred. He has nothing to gain from lies, nothing to lose from truth. Let him speak before he passes." Eric's face was stone. "He's unconscious, barely breathing. He can't testify." "Then let's ask him. Bring him here. Let the assembly see if a dying warrior will speak." They carried Thorstein to the assembly on a litter. His face was gray. The bandage around his throat was soaked through with blood. His breathing was shallow, wet, rattling. But his eyes were open, alert. He knew he was dying, knew these were his final moments. Astrid knelt beside him. "Thorstein, can you hear me?" He nodded slightly. The movement cost him. Blood leaked from his bandage. "You're dying," Astrid said gently. "You know this. Soon you'll feast in Valhalla with the warriors who fell beside you. But before you go, the assembly needs truth. What did you see? During the battle, when the wall broke, did Ragnar abandon his position?" Thorstein's eyes found me. Recognition flickered. He tried to speak, but only blood came out. Astrid gave him a cloth to wipe his mouth. He tried again. This time, words emerged, faint, barely audible, but present. Saw Knut." Thorstein's hand lifted, pointed weakly at Knut. "Saw him push Ragnar's back, hard, deliberate." The assembly went silent, dead silent. Every eye turned to Knut. "He's delirious," Knut shouted. "Dying men see things that aren't real. He doesn't know what he's saying." "Push," Thorstein continued. His voice was fading. "Saw it. Clear. Knut pushed. Ragnar fell forward. Gap opened. Saxons came. I tried to close. Axe caught me. Because of Knut." "Liar!" Knut drew his sword. "Dying fool, you know nothing." "Knut," Thorstein whispered, his eyes locked on his murderer. "You killed us. 20 brothers. For position. For honor you don't deserve. See you. In hell." Thorstein's eyes went blank. His final breath rattled out. His hand fell to his side. The assembly's last chance at truth had just delivered his verdict with his dying words. The crowd erupted. Warriors surged toward Knut. He backed up, sword raised, looking around desperately for Eric. But Eric had stepped away, separated himself from his co-conspirator, survival instinct overriding loyalty. "I'll kill anyone who touches me," Knut screamed. "I did nothing wrong. That dying fool lied. Ragnar fabricated all of this." "Then explain your journal," I said quietly. "Explain planning with Eric. Explain everything Thorstein just confirmed." Knut's eyes were wild, trapped. He looked at the circle of warriors closing in, looked at Eric abandoning him, looked at me holding the journal that proved his guilt. He charged, not at the warriors, at me. Sword raised, a final desperate attempt to silence the evidence, to kill the witness. I didn't draw a blade. I just stepped aside. Let him run past me, straight into Halvar's arms. Halvar, who'd stood behind Knut during the battle, who'd lost Thorstein because of Knut's betrayal. Halvar's grip was iron, unbreakable. "For Thorstein," Halvar said. "For the 20 who died. You'll face justice. Viking justice." The assembly voted, unanimous. Guilty of breaking the sacred shield wall. Guilty of murdering 20 warriors. Guilty of conspiracy with the Jarl to commit treason. The sentence was death. They bound Knut to the execution post at noon. The entire settlement gathered. Not just warriors, everyone. Women, children, elders. This wasn't just an execution. This was a lesson. A reminder that breaking the shield wall was the ultimate betrayal. That murdering your brothers for personal gain was unforgivable. Knut didn't beg, didn't plead. He just stared at me with pure hatred.
"You should have died," he spat. "You should have gone down with the others. This was supposed to be perfect."
"Nothing built on murder is perfect," I said. "You killed 20 men because you wanted my position, because you were jealous. And now you'll die knowing you gained nothing. Your name will be cursed, your memory spat upon. No one will sing of Knut the betrayer. No one will speak your name except as warning."
"And Eric?"
Knut's eyes flicked toward the Jarl.
"What happens to him? He was part of this. He wanted you gone. He agreed to the plan. But he walks free while I die."
The assembly turned to Eric. The Jarl stood on his platform, face carefully neutral. But I could see the calculation behind his eyes. He was weighing options, strategies, looking for a way to survive this. "The journal mentions Eric," I said, addressing the assembly. "Mentions an agreement, a conspiracy to eliminate me. The Jarl knew about Knut's plan, approved it, participated in it. He's as guilty as Knut, perhaps more, because he had the power to stop it and chose not to." Eric's face hardened. "You accuse your Jarl? After I gave you this trial? After I allowed you to present evidence? This is how you repay mercy?" "You didn't give me mercy. You gave me theater. You expected me to be condemned, expected Knut's plan to work. When it didn't, when Thorstein's dying words exposed the truth, you abandoned your conspirator to save yourself." "I am Jarl. I decide who lives and dies in this settlement. If you challenge me, you challenge everyone who follows me. Is that what you want, Ragnar? Civil war? Division? Blood in our streets?" The assembly was silent, watching. This was dangerous territory. Challenging a Jarl could tear a settlement apart, but letting a corrupt Jarl rule could destroy it from within. Would you challenge a corrupt leader knowing it might cause civil war? Comment your answer below. "I don't want war," I said. "I want justice. I want a Jarl who honors the shield wall, who protects warriors instead of conspiring to murder them. You failed 20 families, Eric. You failed every warrior who stands in the line trusting their leaders. The question is, will you take responsibility? Or will you hide behind your position like a coward?" Eric's hand went to his sword. The assembly held its breath. One wrong move and violence would erupt. Guards would fight. Warriors would choose sides. Everything would collapse. Then an old voice spoke from the crowd. "The boy is right." Everyone turned. It was Eirik the Elder, the oldest living warrior in the settlement. 80 winters old, fought in more battles than anyone could count. When he spoke, people listened. "I've served 5 Jarls in my lifetime," Eirik continued, walking slowly into the center of the circle. "Good ones and bad ones. The good ones led with honor, put warriors first, earned loyalty through justice. The bad ones led with fear, put themselves first, demanded loyalty through threats." He looked at Eric. "You plotted to kill one of your best warriors because you saw him as a threat. Not a threat to the settlement, a threat to your power. That's what bad Jarls do." "I am still Jarl," Eric said, but his voice was weaker now, less certain. "Then prove it," Eirik challenged. "Step down voluntarily. Let the assembly choose new leadership. If you're truly the best man for the position, they'll choose you again. But if you hold power through fear and conspiracy, then you're not worthy of the title. The assembly erupted in discussion, argument. Some supported Eric, others called for new leadership. The settlement was splitting, exactly what Eric had wanted to avoid. "Enough," Eric finally said. His shoulders sagged. "I see what I've become, what I nearly destroyed through paranoia and pride. I won't tear this settlement apart. I'll step down. Let the assembly decide who leads. Let them choose based on honor instead of fear." It was a calculated move, strategic. By stepping down voluntarily, Eric looked noble instead of weak. By calling for an assembly vote, he gave himself a chance at re-election. But it was also genuine. I could see the relief in his face, the weight lifting. He'd been trapped by his own paranoia. Now, he was free. The assembly voted 3 days later. Eric wasn't re-elected. Instead, they chose Halvar the Steady, the man who'd stood behind Canute, who'd lost Thorstein, who'd helped expose the conspiracy. Leadership built on honor instead of ambition. Canute's execution was carried out as planned. Quick, clean. More mercy than he'd shown the 20 warriors who died in the broken shield wall. No one sang at his funeral. No one spoke his name with respect. He was buried in unmarked ground, forgotten except as warning. The families of the lost warriors were compensated. Eric's personal wealth divided among them. Not enough to replace fathers and sons, but enough to show the settlement took responsibility for leadership's failure. As for me, I was cleared. My name restored. My position in the shield wall reaffirmed. But I didn't return to 5th position. I took 6th, Halvar's old spot. The position behind the line, where you can see everything, where you can protect the warriors in front of you, where you can prevent another betrayal before it happens. 3 months later, we fought again. A raid on a Frankish settlement. The shield wall formed. I stood in my new position, watching, protecting. The warrior in 5th position was young, eager, nervous about taking such an honored spot. "You'll do fine," I told him before we advanced. "Just remember, the shield wall is sacred. You protect the man beside you, he protects you. And I've got your back. Always." He nodded, took his position, locked his shield. When the battle came, the wall held. No gaps, no betrayals, just warriors standing together like we were supposed to. If you believe that brotherhood means protecting each other, even when no one's watching, hit that subscribe button now. Tell me in the comments, would you stand in the shield wall after everything I survived? Would you trust your brothers again? In the world of Vikings, the shield wall is sacred because it requires absolute trust. Betrayal from within is deadlier than any enemy attack, and every tale of murdered honor ends with justice and blood. 20 warriors died because one man valued position over loyalty, but their deaths weren't meaningless. They exposed corruption, changed leadership, reminded every warrior why we stand together, why we hold the line, why the shield wall is sacred. Thorstein's dying words saved my life, and in doing so, he saved the settlement. His final act wasn't dying in battle. It was speaking truth when lies would have been easier. That's the kind of warrior we honor. That's the kind of man we remember. Skål, warriors, until the next saga.